Hello, everybody, and welcome to Confessions of a Market Maker, Market Recap Edition. I'm your co-host, Ray, aka the Alabaster Disaster, and I'm joined by my co-host, the man with trance-inducing vocals, JJ. And we're here to recap the market and the news surrounding the week of October 21st through the 25th. So, JJ, how'd your trading week go?
It was pretty good. Very slow at the beginning. Got off to a very slow start. And,
Mhm.
then finally, I started to see the market a little bit better. I found this week I definitely was not intelligent first thing in the morning, so I had to wait until the profile kind of told me its story so I could follow along and then actually see the market. And that's okay.
Mhm.
Um,
Yes. Yeah, it's like
yeah.
I mean, you didn't trade the first couple of days if I remember correctly, right?
No, I didn't. I just wasn't feeling it. I was feeling off. I was feeling biased, and I just don't put my capital at risk to force things when, I know I'm going to screw up, right?
Absolutely.
There's no reason. So, you just chill out. The market will tell you what it's going to do. And boy, did it ever.
Yes, yes, it did. And so this episode, it's a new addition to the podcast. We'll be releasing this on Friday every week. We'll be recapping the week in the markets, how it traded, and the relevant news. JJ, so we'll start off. Why don't you talk to us about the market's behavior this week?
Well, we did have a gap up, um, you know, quite a significant gap on the 10th and the 11th there. And ever since then, I've been just talking like one of those old guys who repeats everything over and over again that value's been developing higher and higher and higher. And, we've been holding the two gaps that we have below us, values developing higher. And I just do not see a lot of natural sellers out there.
Hmm.
While the market's sort of balancing and it broke out of that balance today and definitely caught a lot of people short, nice P formation in the profile. But everything this week, ever since, we started into those gaps, around the 9th, 10th, 11th in that area. And once the market started going higher into this earnings cycle, um, I could not see a reason for, of course you can short during the time frame. Careful, it seems that we're accepting prices at higher levels. I mean, we flushed this market out twice pretty good. So we don't really have a lot of resistance here, you know?
Yeah,
Um, as soon as we get over those all-time highs, I mean, it's some pretty thin air here. They could slice right through it.
yeah, yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, no, I was
yeah,
like struggling to find trading references today.
yeah, I was
And
going back to July, looking at single prints, and they were actually pretty good.
mhm.
Our day high was, right in a set of single prints from way back.
Wow.
And yeah, so that's the nice thing about profile. It can kind of help tailor your expectations. I can see where a trend day is going now. Once I get my hard head wrapped around the fact that, oh, it's a trend day.
Hmm.
Especially when you start seeing things like three sets of single prints. One filled, but you know those single prints around levels like when you break out of value and you get single prints, and when you break out of a weekly or a balance high and you get single prints there, meaning that this is emotional. I have to buy because I'm short and I'm covering, not really because I want to buy. And you see that kind of price action. It's a go with kind of move. You don't want to stand in front of that.
For
So
sure. For sure. For sure.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, I know we're not in the business of predicting things, predicting where the market's going to go, but are there any
Dear.
few are there any scenarios that you're potentially looking for developing next week?
Well, next week I want to. We did break out on some really poor structure. The way this market closed, they could have had a beautiful short trap rally at the end because we have so many. They had so many stops all the way down as it sort of cascaded down very nicely. They could have ran those stops. They tried in M period, but they just didn't have the juice to do it
Hmm.
in the last half hour of the day. So that close wasn't the greatest, but value was higher. We're 9 half-hour periods wide over 3021. And that's also confirmed by volume. There's some volume up there. So, value is definitely higher today. It's on bad structure, right? So next
Sure.
week I'll see if we come back in and test that balance range, and if we test it, do we get accepted back in, or do we reject back out to the upside? And there's a ton of earnings next week too. So, and of course, as our good friend and mentor Peter Resnicek says, the Fed monster truck rally at the end of the month. So, shout out to Peter.
Yeah.
You know, wouldn't be here without you. And of course, Mr. Dalton. But yeah, we have 118 companies on Monday and 262 on Tuesday, and I think 359 and 368 Wednesday, Thursday.
Wow.
And I think 82 on Friday, something in those areas. So that we still have a lot of earnings to come out. So I'm in a wait and see mood, but so far, people don't mind paying up.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yep. That's for sure. And it'll be interesting next week. And so transitioning to the news, there's a petition going around to remove the pattern day trader rule, PDT.
Yes.
Twitter degenerates are flocking to go sign.
Well, I'll tell you something. You know what? We don't have the PDT rule in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And, they put that rule in place because people were trading like just, drunk sailors on shore leave when in the 90s. They were, buying and selling and buying and selling and buying and selling until there was nothing left in the account.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they put that in place. Maybe it needs some modification. Maybe 3 or whatever it is too limiting.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell you, in Canada, we don't have a PDT rule, and I don't really know a lot of successful penny stock traders in Canada. I know a lot of penny stock bag holders, right? And people who are just buried in penny stock deals.
Right.
But I don't see a lot of successful penny stock day traders. Now, I know a couple of people who do trade very high risk stuff, but they have insane discipline. They spend most of their free time reading SEC reports, filings, and they're looking at dilution and things like that and how to trade dilution. And, but it's a lot of work,
Sure.
and it's a lot of work. So, maybe they need to amend the PDT rule,
Mm-hmm.
I know what people are going through because you have a smaller account. Come to futures, man. Come to futures. There, you can have a small account. You can learn how to trade well. You can trade a thick market. I know I sound like the guy advertising the sham wow, but come one, come all. It's I don't know why you would bother trading that stuff if you could come and trade a stable market where your odds of actually having success and consistency are much better.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And
you know,
not to sound like the ShamWow guy, but from somebody who used to trade that and read candlesticks or attempt to read candlesticks, the market profile speaks to you on so much more in-depth level. You have an idea of what's going on, what type of players are in the market. It's just a whole different ball game.
well, yeah, and if people don't understand what's going on in the world, there was an article that came out in the Wall Street Journal and all over yesterday that I'm sure a lot of people didn't really pay attention to. But FINRA fined BNP Paribas $15 million over money laundering controls. One of the things that they nailed them for was related to their prime brokerage, where they were taking the restrictive legend off penny stock certs, means that they were locked up 144 certs that weren't legally allowed to be sold, and they would let them sell those through their prime brokerage. So there was a lot of money that went through that. And it also says that they processed more than 70,000 wire transfers with a value of 233 billion with a B dollars.
Wow.
I don't know how much of that is due to the penny stock activity, but if you people are out there trading that stuff and you see numbers like that going across the screen at a prime broker, and let me tell you, a prime broker is where the people who put in the supply of all the garbage you guys are buying, that's where they put it into the system through their prime broker.
Hmm.
And so if those guys are taking and selling stock that they shouldn't be doing, and that's a big company, right? I'm surprised they only charged, fined them $15 million. That's a lot of cabbage that they weren't really keeping track of. You see things like that. I don't know why just come to a nice regulated market. The CME does a wonderful job of market regulation.
Hmm.
Um, it's an actual publicly traded company. It's significant. It has a history. OTC markets. It's a different story, right?
It
It's an
is.
exchange that's an exchange that's owned by a human being. You know, um,
Hmm.
so not nothing against him. He's got a great business going. But if you're a small account holder, I wouldn't put so much leverage on the PDT rule. Why don't you come learn how to trade a safe market, not a safe market, but a more consistent,
Yeah,
regulated
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's been petitions like this in the past. I mean, I think at least two
market?
that
Really?
I can remember. Yeah, so I think just the chances of this even getting passed. I mean, I think they need 100K signatures within a month, if I'm getting the facts right. So
I,
I still think
I,
this is a long shot anyway to even
I, I,
change to come.
I've never even heard of such a thing. I was actually surprised to see it, and I commented on it. But
Yeah.
you know,
Yep. Well, in other news, WeWork is paying its founder over $1 billion to go away.
yeah,
WeWork has fallen from a projected 50 billion to just $5 billion. Some are
yeah.
calling Neumann the most talented grifter of our time.
Well, these guys, we might offend some Silicon Valley people here, but you guys are really drinking the Kool-Aid a little too hard here.
Yeah.
Let me just say this: because you have a black turtleneck in your closet, does not mean you're Steve Jobs. Okay. All right. Everyone's got a pair of jeans. Everyone's got a black top. Doesn't make you the inventor of Apple. Sorry to say.
Yeah.
It's just and it's just evidence that there's too much money floating around.
Yeah.
If people are indiscriminately spending, but hey, if you're selling a pair of jeans for $1,000 and a baseball hat for $500, why not?
Yeah. 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 And you've been saying this to me that there's too much money in this market since the time I think we've came in contact.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
I'm starting to
pe-
understand now.
people are buying Halloween costumes for their dogs, right?
Nuts. Yeah.
Right. I mean, if that's not a technical indicator that the market's overvalued, I don't know what is. I mean, I love dogs, but
Yeah.
I used to have Newfoundlands and Saint Bernards. I mean, you wouldn't
It's
dress. That's a
it's
noble animal.
crazy.
You don't
It's
want to,
crazy. I laughed like that because
you
I
know.
used to see this girl and she would put sweaters on a Shih Tzu down here in Florida, and I'm like, you're torturing the damn dog.
Yeah.
The dog's gonna be sweating. It already has all
Yes.
that fur. You're torturing
Yeah.
it.
I don't know. So
Down here
anyway,
in Florida. Yeah.
that's our technical indicator. It is pet clothing, and when that market peaks, we know.
The pet clothing indicator.
It's people will just keep buying and spending money. It's the way it is, and God bless them because that keeps the economy going.
Yeah.
But as far as the market's concerned, we don't seem to mind. I mean, look what happened to Amazon. I mean, it just came roaring back today. It was scary.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Oh yeah.
how that stock traded. It just so there's just way too much money, and they're just having way too much fun.
Yeah.
So we'll just keep partying until somebody starts tapping us on the shoulder,
Yeah.
and
Enjoy
hopefully
it.
that someone is market profile.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Man, the pet clothing indicator. I wrote
Yeah,
that one down. So all you out there, most reliable
definitely.
indicator out there.
Yeah.
There we go. All right. Now, last topic. Earnings season is open or is upon us. Total of 715 companies reported this week. Anyone stood out to you, Jay?
Not really. I noticed Budweiser got kind of hammered a little bit. I
Hmm.
feel bad for those folks. Um,
Budweiser got hammered. You did that on
you
purpose?
know, well, hey,
Yeah.
I'm Canadian.
Good one. Yeah, good.
Old Rotten Ronnie's too, McDonald's, sold off. That'll be a buy somewhere. I'm not a technical guy, but I'd have to take a look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Governments come and go, but the McDonald's are always forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so far people, people don't mind paying higher prices.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think I see a lot of, there was a couple of weeks ago, it was the end of the world, and the market's going to go to 2200 and, all of this stuff. And we're looking at this recession and everything. And, now I'm seeing, us trade near the all-time high today.
Yeah.
And I noticed that, the talking heads and they're all sort of, you can see the fears kind of been replaced by a little greed. It's interesting when you see that happen. People go from scared to like, yeah, well, maybe it's not a bad deal down here.
Crazy thin line, huh? Real
It's
thin line.
it's a thin line, right?
Yeah.
So,
So JJ, I wanted to ask you, as somebody who is new to trading, like myself, what kind of effects can earnings season have on the market in general?
well, I mean, the market has been waiting, mind you, at higher prices all week
Mm-hmm.
to see what kind of earnings these companies are pumping out, and nothing has been severely bad. So the market gets an indication of that, and of course, the market trades ahead of earnings, sometimes a little too far ahead of earnings. Uh,
Sure.
you
Mm-hmm.
know, but it's basically looking at that, and always remember that it's the last quarter. Christmas is coming, Thanksgiving. People need to mark up those positions, because everybody has to get the GI Joe with the kung fu grip, as Eddie Murphy would say in Trading Places. So there is an incentive to take this market higher, and good gosh, there's enough money sitting in the sidelines. We have money management firms with trillions of dollars, and they're putting it to work in less and less publicly traded product. Remember, there are fewer publicly traded companies now than there were before, and that's diminishing due to regulation and accounting and legal fees and listing fees and all of, and liability with shareholders. So a lot of these people, because they have so much cash, are doing, keeping companies private, and that's going to be that's going to be a problem one day when you have to liquidate and you're the only one who's been buying.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the nice thing about public companies. At least you can find a bid. It might be $40 below where you want, but there might, there's going to be a bid somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can get out, except of course in the worst situations. But um, yeah, they're pushing more and more money into less and less product. So, the markets just have nowhere to go but up. They're just getting pushed and pushed and pushed higher. So, we'll just keep, I'm not going to step in front of it. I trade on the day time frame. So, and, maybe a little swing every once in a while, but, it's the one thing I have noticed though, ever since the China talks, is the tweeting has kind of calmed down a little bit,
It
and the
has, hasn't
price
it?
action.
Yeah.
We haven't had the crazy go nuts tweet, run the stops,
Yeah.
make everybody cry, then run them back down the other way, make everybody cry. We haven't had that for a while. Knock on
Yeah.
wood.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And
Oh yeah.
yeah, that's about it.
Excellent.
That's
Excellent. Good
about it.
stuff.
Yeah.
And just want to thanks everyone for listening. Our first market recap. We're gonna keep coming out with these every Friday. To all the listeners, you guys enjoy us. Please rate and review us. Me and JJ greatly appreciate that. Any questions you guys have for us, we will answer on the pod. We'll do that on our other weekly pod. Hit us up on Twitter. Leave it in the comments on YouTube or in iTunes, wherever you guys are listening to it. Really appreciate you guys. So for the gorilla, I am Rambunctious Raymond. You guys have a safe weekend.
Have a great weekend, everyone. Please get into some trouble for me.
All right. All right. Bye, Jay.